Hi, it's no longer news that the 2023 election is almost here. Campaign has started. What is your criteria for choosing the next president of Nigeria? What should be your benchmark? I think I should advise you not to look at money, not to look at religion, not to look at party lines, but look at the candidate who is credible enough to be the next president of Nigeria. Welcome to 7 Legal. I am Olachi Anyekwa. Today we'll be talking about discrimination and inheritance as it concerns women in property distribution in Nigeria. And with me to discuss this is Tenye Akobo, Esquire, partner Zats Law. Welcome back. This is Olaji Anyekwa. You're welcome to 7 Legal. With me to discuss in today's show, like I said earlier before, we're talking about inheritance and the process of inheritance and the process of distribution of inheritance in Nigeria, especially when it concerns women and children and female children in particular. With me to discuss in today's show is Tenure Akobo, Esquire. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you
so sorry for that mix up.
No, that's fine.
Okay, please can you explain to us, tell us what the law says about inheritance, especially when it comes to discrimination that is ongoing on different parts of Nigeria, especially, okay, as for example, the Igbo land. Sometimes when a woman, a father dies, to be able to share properties, if you see a female child might not be entitled to that. What does the law say concerning such laws that has already been existing for a very long time?
Okay, many of those laws are based on customary provisions or traditions, as is known. They are mostly derived from customs and cultures where they assume that the woman is going to get married away and leave the family. So in that light, they preclude them from inheriting from their fathers. Now, those are the two. So you have that provision, and you also have the legal provision, which provides for how properties or estate is passed on from one person to the other. By law, due to the will provisions, one can pass on properties either through gifts or through a will or something. When it comes to customary law, and as you said, particularly or with particular reference to the Igbo culture, which is very famous for this sort of practices. You see that women are excluded because of the circumstance of their birth, because they are women. And these laws go back many years. And many people are unwilling to change it. But as we have seen, the courts have ruled against that. The most recent case being that of the Ukeje family, where a young lady, Gladys Ukeje, sued her mother and her brother, Louis and Aina, collectively because they had deprived her or denied her the opportunity to inherit from her deceased father. And she went to the High Court in Lagos, and the matter escalated and got to the Supreme Court, where the justices on there at the time ruled that it was against the provisions of Section 42 of the Constitution, both subsection 1 and 2, which deals with the right of Nigerians not to be discriminated against because of their gender, sex, or circumstance of their birth, which is subsection 2. So that is where the law is right now, as the case may be.
What you're saying, it's actually, this is a normal practice, but it's looking like it's only the privileged few who can be able to, go to court and sue for this. What is the law doing for those women in the villages who are, some of them are outrightly thrown away and cannot be able to access the provisions of these courts or go to court to sue this? Are there NGOs who are ready to take up such cases of such women who cannot be able to access the court? And because this is becoming an increasing, even in recent time where the Supreme Court is enacting different laws, but this incident or these cases are getting on increase on a daily basis.
That's such a good question. And it's such a good question because, as you have rightly said, even if there's a judicial pronouncement as to the illegality of that because of the provisions of Section 42, you still have a lot of people that will not be able to access or reach out to that protection afforded by that judgment.
Yeah.
And because of that, they will have to in some cases, it comes with the financial implications of having to retain a lawyer and going through the process of trying to extend the benefits of those judicial pronouncements. And it's important at this time that states need to codify such laws, codify in sense of passing legislation that would give right to women directly to inherit. So if we don't have that in place, we would have a process where at every point a woman gets discriminated against, she will have to seek legal redress to retain her rights. So I think so far, and it was this year too, that the only state in the south that has done something along those lines is Rivers State, where Governor Nyesom Wike passed a law particularly giving women the right to inherit, from their fathers. We know that Islamic law in the northern states give provision to the percentage of the estate that women are entitled to. So those are good laws. Hopefully, we can see more of those happening in states whereby state governors are putting it in place. So instead of finding a lawyer that will take you to court and probably spend years, people can positively and actively go and seek either police protection or something along those lines in terms of basically exercising their rights.
You're a partner at that law.
Yes.
Yes. And do you guys take such cases as pro bono cases? Because some of these women cannot be able to afford going to court, like I said. So are there provisions where your firm takes this kind of cases of pro bono cases?
Yes, we do actually. Part of the core of our legal practice is to afford legal services or protection to people that cannot afford it. And it is a thing of joy as a lawyer for you to be able to take away one's pain or plight.
Okay.
And this is something that will be very interesting to take up, particularly because as far as we are concerned as lawyers, it's settled law that a woman can inherit her father. Okay. Whatever anybody says is just by the way. It doesn't have any force.
Okay, another question I want to ask is this. I think the law goes through processes and follows due processes. And most times the person or the father has to have a will. In instances where there is no will written down for the distribution of such properties, it does, and the customary law or the traditions has to take up because there's no will. How does the law defend such women when there's no provision for a will, and the customary law says you can't be able to inherit this because there's no. So how do you guys come in when there is no will written down that this person owns this person owns this?
You're very correct, and the best remedy to this whole problem is for fathers or parents to start writing wills. If that is done, that becomes the person's direct wishes, and you cannot obviously go against that, whether because of the mandate of customs or something. The will stands as, the operational desire of the person who is now deceased. Now, the issue of, in lieu of a will, what can happen is customary law, as the case may be now, the Supreme Court has ruled, and it is trite in law, that anything that comes in contact with the Constitution or that is not in direct harmony with the Constitution is null and void, and that is the law. So when we go to court, or if we go to court, or when the person goes to court that is so affected, the question the person will be asking is to enforce that right which has been given to them or re-emphasized upon by the judgment of the Supreme Court. In that particular case, Ukeje case, where the court said, and it was a unanimous judgment, so there was no dissent by any lords at all. And it was very clear that the woman has the right to inherit her father because you cannot discriminate against the woman.
Even when there was no will written down.
Whether there's a will or not, whether there's any custom or not. So the only thing that any protector of that particular custom can do now is go to court and find another Supreme Court that would, throw that judgment
in
out.
times when there is no will, is there a proportion to the distribution? Like when a family has like 5 boys, probably, or 3 boys to a girl, does the law, since there might be instances where there is no will, are there proportions to the distribution of this thing laid down in the Constitution that every family has to follow?
No, not at all. It now falls on the discretion of the executors or the administrators of the estate, because if a person dies intestate, it is members of the family would apply to the probate
Members of
registry.
the family, the uncles and
or wherever the case may be. Now things are changing whereby we are seeing that people are becoming more aware of the provisions of the law. The law in this instance now meaning the registry. So you go to the probate and then demand that you would like to administer the estate of the person who is now deceased. And when you go there, a lot of things are done. Things like you have to produce birth certificate, next of kin letter, and all those things. So once my best wishes would be that the female child is sensitized enough to know that that process is a process they can also be involved in. So you don't have to leave it to any uncles or anything. You can take, the steps. So take the death certificates and go to the registry, apply for them. If he's in a place of employment, you can also get his letter of next of kin, and if your name is on there, those are strong documents you can use to apply.
You called uncles. Please, are there provisions for uncles in the constitution? Because we've seen uncles rise up to take properties. They are not there. So please,
Yes.
in this process, are there provisions where uncles can inherit properties too?
Some customs allow that to happen, but what the custom cannot do is exclude the women.
Okay.
It can. So part of the judgment did not include excluding uncles completely. It just says don't include the female child.
Okay.
So it depends on what those what the custom has desired. So they cannot say, so if the man has 5 girls and no boy, and then the uncles come and say, none of you can get anything. No.
Okay.
But if the custom says, okay, the uncle should be taken care of because his brother was taking care of him before he died, and now that he's late, something has to be given to him. I would imagine that should be fine. It may be awful, but I don't think it is unlawful.
In your final words, what should be your advice to women who are going through this process and probably might not really have enough capital or enough funds to go to get the court and see? What would be your advice? What do you think they should do legally?
I would advise them to reach out to non-governmental organizations that are invested in matters like this. Reach out to law firms. So there are many lawyers across this country that would be willing in a heartbeat to take up cases like that, because it is such a grotesque injustice that nobody wants to see survive or stand. That's number one. But number two, and this is more caution to parents, write a will. It doesn't mean that you're going to die
They might not
tomorrow.
know where they will die.
Exactly. That fear that they have is that if I
Yes.
write a will, it is a consent to life to end.
Yeah,
It's
no,
not really that.
Nigerian-
Just write a will. You can always update it as you advance in age or grow in wealth. So if they have a will, all of these problems will be solved, because she doesn't even need to deal with any uncles or customs. She can just proceed and act, the way she wants to act. And mothers too should also look out for their girl child as they will their boy child as well, because you have most of these instances get a lot of aid and support from the mothers, because the mothers don't want to usurp customs per se. So if the mothers who are joining in with their daughters and saying, oh no, this is wrong, that would be, in my estimation, a very major pillar of support for the girl child.
Oh, okay, that will be a very major pillar of support for the girl child. Thank you so very much. Today, you've really done justice to this thing, and I hope the women listening to us, all the fathers listening to us, get to write a will very soon and share the properties the way it is. But if you're in such circumstances where you're discriminated against in inheritance of your father's property or your husband's property, I think you should go to a lawyer. You should go to a law firm, and there are law firms, like he says, that are ready to take this as the pro bono cases or get you justice the right way. You should know people are already winning those cases, and you can win it. So just let's get the right things done. Happy independence to Nigeria again. I am Olachi Anikwa. This is 7 Legal. I will see you next week.